Hey guys, Dark Slayer here. Having a bunch of questions about the rifle that I've been running. This is the EMG Helios Knights Armament SR-16. This here is the carbine length. It has the little bit longer barrel than the SBR. Overall, this has been a pretty solid rifle so far. I would definitely recommend this. There was a few issues right out of the box. My very first day running it, my motor actually loosened up on me and lost mesh with the gearbox. So I had to fix that. I've had it happen one other time. It kind of just seems to move with use. I'm really not sure how common of a problem that is. And it might just need a little bit of thread lock or something on the threads to keep it in place. One of the other problems that I had was the handguard had a little bit of movement in it, causing the outer barrel to move around. And basically to fix that, I just wrapped some Teflon tape up around the inside. You can see a little bit of it sticking out through here. And that tended to just tighten everything up, because it does have the more of a floating handguard style. It makes a little bit of contact with the outer barrel, but not a lot. It kind of just rattled around on me a little bit. So I got that issue mostly taken care of just by wrapping it up in some Teflon tape. So the gun has a rotary style hop-up in it. It does not have a functioning bolt catch. One of the other little tiny things that I've had is the guard here kind of just falls out all the time, which I guess for most people isn't really a big issue. It kind of just annoys me if I'm carrying it around or anything like that and I don't want to get dust in it. It's kind of annoying that it just randomly flops open. It doesn't like to stay shut. The stock is a nice, small, 5-position stock. I like that it's small because it makes it real easy to shoulder up on the rifle. It's not real bulky. I can move around pretty quick with it, even for it being a little bit longer than the SBR. The fire selector switch is very snappy. You can definitely tell and hear when you're changing selection. The grip has a nice little stipple to it. It is pretty comfortable. I've never really had an issue of it, feeling like it's going to slip out of my hands. On this gun, I am running a red dot sight, which I left on. I always tend to do that, and then I kill my batteries. This is a T1 style red dot. I have my run cam on here as well. And my battery pack is kind of just zip tied around it, but it works. It holds it in place pretty well. I don't really have a whole lot of issues there. Accuracy out of the box, this thing wasn't terrible. I definitely had more that I desired out of it. But again, with this being my first rifle, I wasn't quite sure if it was me asking too much performance out of a entry-level rifle, or if maybe it did have a little bit of an accuracy problem. But I made a couple adjustments to that, and we'll get into that in a little bit. One of the other main issues that I had, and it's happened to me a couple times, is it's got the quick change spring system, which if you remove the stock, you got your buffer tube where the battery goes in. There is one screw in here that holds the whole buffer tube on. This outer lock collar kind of just holds the sling mount in place, which it doesn't really do a lot for stability. There's one screw in the center of the buffer tube here that holds the buffer tube on. That threads into the rear retention nut for the quick change spring. So what I've had happen twice now is that the retention nut has backed off and caused the stock to wobble. And really that's the only indication, other than lack of accuracy in your shots, that your spring has now loosened up. So every time you shoot, it kind of rebounds a little bit differently because it's not locked tight like it's supposed to. And I've had that happen twice. It happened once right out of the box, and then I tightened it up myself, and then it happened again. So I'm not sure if it's just a vibration problem that's causing that, or maybe I got to put a little bit of Loctite on it, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. As far as magazines go, I've tried a bunch of different styles. I believe it comes with a Elite Force, I want to say this was. I honestly have no idea. That's just a really educated guess. They lock in real nice. There's no real problems there. The mag release is marketed as being ambidextrous, so it does release from, you know, the normal side. But on the other side, it's got a button too. But if you push this button down, it doesn't really like to release. I don't think the button moves the lever as far as it's supposed to. You have to really play with it a good bit to get it to actually release. So as far as the mag release being ambidextrous, I don't see it being, you know, very worthwhile because it doesn't like to move the lever far enough. I did mention the quick detach sling point in the back. It's got one on either side of the front as well, and then it's got one on the other side of the tail as well. Kind of the weird thing about these front ones is that they're also one of the holding nuts for the handguard. So you take these two out and your handguard just slides right off. So what I've had happen, and I've tried to Loctite these, I've tried to put Teflon tape on them, stuff to hold them in place, but after I loosened these up for the first time, this one in particular, because it's where I put my sling mount, it tends to wobble loose, and then I'll end up either having the quick detach mount and the nut fly out, or I'll just end up with some wobble on the handguard because that loosened up. So it does have some issues out of the box, but if you're fine with doing a little bit of tinkering, that's not really a big problem. I've heard from a lot of people, you know, that if you're not working on your gun at least once every other week, you're in pretty good shape. So I guess this thing really isn't that bad. It does have, like I said, some things that I would improve or change on it. But it's decent out of the box for a $200 gun. So to get into just a couple of the things that I've upgraded on this, I changed the inner barrel out just a few weeks ago. I don't have a whole lot of weeks of playtime with the new inner barrel, and this is the factory one. And I was a little bit surprised to see that the factory barrel is extremely short. It's actually the same inner barrel between both the carbine length and the SBR rifle. So all they changed was the handguard and the outer barrel length. The inner barrel was surprisingly the same exact part. My new inner barrel that I have is a MadBull 363. Both of these barrels are aluminum 6.03. So there's not a build difference or a material difference. It's just the fact that it's honestly a little bit better machined and longer like I wanted. One of the things that I did real quick after getting this was replacing the hop-up bucking. The factory bucking, which is in my hand now, is a real soft, cheap feeling rubber. It's got kind of like that rounded nub. It really wasn't cutting it for me. Again, it might have just been me asking too much out of my, factory gun. But I like to be a little bit more accurate. I changed to the G&G Blue, which is for the rotary chamber that does come in it. This bucking, it feels better. It's a little bit harder. It's got a V-channel groove in it, so it kind of holds the BB in the center of the bucking. Instead of it being able to go to either side, it holds it more centered, so your first shot accuracy is going to be a lot more precise than with the other bucking. One of the things about this gun is battery availability. There was a lot of questions when I was doing the research to figure out what I wanted to do about what batteries fit in the little tiny buffer tube. These are wired factory with Tamiya, at least mine was. I guess they were looking at maybe changing that to Dean's. I will be eventually converting mine to Dean's. It's just a lot more efficient. But for now, we're still rocking the Tamiya connectors. But the batteries that I've found that fit, the best one is the Matrix 1000 milliamp 11.1 volt 3-cell Lipo. This fits perfectly fine inside the buffer tube. I don't have any issues at all. I also got the Vulcan Energy 11.1 3-cell, and this is in a 1200 milliamp variety. And it's also 30C as opposed to the 20C in this. So it's got a little bit more kick to it. It's not enough to really make a huge difference in rounds per second, but I do notice that it's a little bit on the snappier side with the 30C instead of the 20C. My problem with this one is that it's a little bit on the longer side when compared to the Matrix, and it actually makes it so that I can't run my stock in the fully closed position. I have to run it 1 click back, which for me isn't an issue. I typically run my stock 2 clicks back. It's just where I feel comfortable with it. Alright guys, so let's take a look at how these things are packaged. They do come with a pretty decent box. It doesn't have a whole lot of markings on it. It just says, you know, EMG Helios on the back, has a little bit of a description of the company, but the only actual markings for what the gun is the Knight's Armament logo on the front. So I bought a couple of Evike mystery boxes a little while ago, and they both just so happened to come with the Knight's Armament rifle that I already owned. I did get a little bit lucky on the fact that they're both different varieties of what I have, even though they're the same base platform. So it is kind of nice that I have a little bit of variety. This one here, this is exactly how they come packaged out of the box. You have your unjamming rod, and you have a high cap mag, which, like I said before, I forgot I left BBs in it. Like I said before, I think these are an Elite Force. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. But this is what the tan SBR rifle looks like. It's definitely a little bit different. It's not as tactical, if you ask me, compared to the black. I much prefer the black, but if I had a tan loadout, this would be pretty cool to run with it. One of the things that I don't have on my rifle is the flip-up sights. The front sight is adjustable for elevation. The rear sight appears to be adjustable, but I don't think it actually is. I think it's just markings on it, because I haven't been able to get any of these to actually move. But they're all pretty solid. I haven't had a chance to play with either one of the SBRs, but I had to take this one apart because when I test fired it, it actually had a torn hop-up bucking right out from the factory. I will say though that both of the SBRs were open box guns, so that might be part of the reason why it had a torn bucking. It was just a little bit discouraging to see, if you ask me. So, one of the other things that I didn't show you guys before, they do come out of the package with a orange flash hider. These flash hiders are not pinned in place. You can just heat them up and twist them off. One of the negatives that I've seen for these guns, which I'm not a big attachment guy, but they are positive threads on the outer barrel, not negative threads like most of your attachments require. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Either you need to get the special attachments that fit the EMG line, which is, you know, I believe all positive threads, or you can get an adapter to go from negative to, or positive to negative. So let's take a quick look here, and we'll just do a quick little overview. We have the SBR in brown, have the SBR in black, and you can see here my quick detach mounts. I loaned this one out a few times for a couple people to run, and I've heard great things from the people that have used this. They've all said good things about these. I haven't actually had somebody come back and say no, they didn't like using it. So we'll compare that with, this is a little bit heavier with some stuff on it. But you can see the length difference, and like I said, it was a little bit upsetting when I took these apart and realized that they have the same exact inner barrel, even though we got about 4 inches longer, well, 2 inches longer on the carbine version compared to the SBR. I would have liked to seen a, you know, corresponding size inner barrel instead of just throwing the same components in a different case. So here we are back to my rifle. It's definitely seen a little bit of wear. It's getting dirty. I should probably clean it, but you know, all the cool guns are dirty, so I might as well just keep it dirty. The gearboxes are all the standard Ares Amoeba gearboxes. So they do have the Ares EFCS unit in them, which is programmable if you get their programming card, which is like an extra $60. I have not done any programming to this, so it just shoots. It's got safe, semi, and full automatic. The programmable box allows you to have, I believe, 2-round burst, 3-round burst, and I think it's up to like a 10-round burst that you can program in. I don't know who ever wants to use a 10-round burst, because from what I've seen, once you pull the trigger, you can't stop it. It's shooting 10 rounds no matter what. So I want to thank you guys for watching my video. This is kind of like my first try at a review style video, and it was more or less just to describe, you know, what the gun is, what I've done to it, because I've had a few people ask, so I might as well do a video and show you guys what I'm talking about. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you out in the field.